Yes, it's time for another Ute drag race. This time I've got the 2025 Toyota HiLux GR Sport versus the 2025 Kia Tasman X-Pro. These are both top of the range HiLux versus top of the range Tasman. They're both focused on off-road driving, both come with all-terrain tyres. Although the GR Sport is probably more of a specialist machine, it actually comes with more power and different suspension and so on, or a bit more hardcore compared with the rest of the range, while the Tasman, features the same powertrain across the board. In the Kia, you've got a 2.2 litre turbo diesel 4-cylinder producing 154 kilowatts and 440 newton meters, paired up with an 8-speed automatic with configurable rear-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, including a 4A mode, so you can drive it on tarmac with four-wheel drive. While the Toyota features a 2.8 litre turbo diesel 4-cylinder, 165 kilowatts and 550 newton meters, paired up with a 6-speed automatic with a conventional rear-wheel drive, four-wheel drive configuration with no 4A mode, so only 4H. Quite different outputs. The HiLux has the advantage with a lot more power and a lot more torque, but if we have a look at the weight figures, you've got 2,237 curb weight for the Kia and 2,270 for the HiLux, so the HiLux is a tiny bit heavier. Even so, the power to weight ratio, 68.8 kilowatts per tonne in the Kia and 72.6 kilowatts per tonne in the HiLux. So the HiLux should take this, given that it's got more torque, more power and a better power to weight ratio. But the Kia does have an 8-speed automatic, which could help in terms of acceleration. Sometimes having fewer gears, you're just relying on the torque, which can be good in certain situations like traffic and so on, but we're doing flat out acceleration 0 to 100 and 0 to the quarter mile as well. For this test, I'll run the Tasman in rear-wheel drive just to make it a bit more consistent, a bit more even. Although you could test the GR Sport in 4H on the dry tarmac, as long as you're staying in a straight line. There shouldn't be too much problem. But anyway, I'll just run them both in rear-wheel drive to make it more even and consistent. As usual, I'll set up the tripod here on this private road for the full quarter mile test, including mounting the camera at the start line, about the 1/8 mile, and then roughly the quarter mile, the finish line. And then during the editing, splice it together so they take off at the exact same time, then it will represent what a drag race would look like. Weather conditions, pretty similar both days, although I'd say it might be a little bit warmer with the Kia today compared with the HiLux. But yeah, overall pretty similar. Let's see how they go. There we go, pretty easy win there for the Kia actually. And that's quicker than I got out of the Tasman X line, which is one model variant down from this. So you'd think this would be a bit heavier. But yeah, I did a few runs, they were all pretty consistent. 9.1 the best result for the Tasman, and then 9.7 without brake hold, so that's brake boosting or stalling it up, as I used to say. Basically getting on the brake pedal, building the engine revs up a little bit where the torque and get some power involved, and then release the brake. But I did the same thing with the HiLux as well, and it wasn't able to beat the Tasman, even though it has more power and more torque and a better power to weight ratio. I think it all comes down to the 8-speed auto in the Kia. It's just a bit more direct in providing that power, but also it divides up the power and torque, so you've got more ratios to cover different speeds. Sometimes, you know, fewer gears is good if you've got a high torque engine, because you can just use that wave of torque to push you through in traffic conditions and in, you know, driving around the suburbs and so on. But we're talking about flat out racing, and I think that's where the Kia edges ahead. I mean, that's really the only explanation, unless the engine is producing more power than what Kia claims. Just going over some other figures, fuel consumption in both is 8.1 litres per 100 kilometres. Both have an 80 litre fuel tank. That means a theoretical average range of 988 kilometres in both, so very even. Also quite close is the price. The HiLux starts from $74,310 excluding on roads. This version of the Tasman, the X-Pro, starts from $74,990 excluding on roads. So this is actually more expensive than the top of the range HiLux. I think that's what's kind of slowing sales down a little bit. Not slowing, but yeah, usually when a new model launches, there's a spike in sales, like dealer demos and all that sort of thing, but also all the people that have been looking forward to buying one, like in the build-up, there's usually an initial spike, whereas it hasn't happened with this. There's about 800 to 900 sales per month, whereas the HiLux, that's 4x2 and 4x4 combined, whereas the HiLux, you know, 3, 4, 5,000 sometimes for both 4x4 and 4x2 combined. So this is, yeah, not getting close to the HiLux or Ranger for that matter. The Ranger is the best seller. It's, yeah, 4,000 to 5,000 a month as well. I think the other big thing that's stopping people from buying it, or perhaps causing some of this slowing take-up, is the design. It's just not a very pleasant thing to look at. And I get it, you want to stand out and be different, but if everybody is over here, you know, because they like the sort of masculine macho designs of utes, then why would you go somewhere, you know, over here with something a bit different? Like, why wouldn't you follow where everyone is buying? I don't quite understand it. But yeah, the front end of this is just not a very nice thing to look at. And, you know, I'm not a very nice thing to look at maybe, but I can't change me. Someone actually designed this on purpose, you know, and that's what I think they've failed a bit. Although I must say, in this color in particular, it doesn't look as bad as some of the other variants. Like this has got the color-coded wheel arches. The normal configuration is that's black plastic, and it just stands out and makes it look a little bit awkward. There's also a black section here for these fake little bonnet clips, but it does help sort of divide up this awkward nose, puts it like a border between those. But yeah, this corner here is just not right. Like that headlight needs to be up here, then it would look a bit like a Jeep. But yeah, I don't know, I just don't like the look of it, and I think there's a lot of people out there that don't like the look of it. The rest of it is not too bad. It's got a bit of cartoonish flavor going on, and in this color, as I said, it kind of looks like a Jeep, sort of army, sort of special, in a good way. Like it looks, yeah, interesting. But yeah, that front end I think is turning a lot of people off. So people are walking into the showroom, seeing it and just not investigating any further. So the sales guys, you know, can't lure them in anymore, basically. In other areas, you've got 252 millimeters of ground clearance in the Kia, 265 millimeters in the GR Sport. Now, when it comes to towing, GVM is 3,250 kilograms in the Kia, 3,050 kilograms in the GR Sport. And considering they're pretty similar curb weight, you can see what's going to happen here. If you hook up a max rated trailer, 3.5 tons, you've got to put 350 kilograms goes to the tow ball download. Roughly, it's 8 to 10%, we'll say 10% anyway. In the Kia Tasman, you're left with 662 kilograms for passengers and cargo. So that means if you hook up a 3.5 ton trailer, you've got 660 kilograms of people and cargo to put in the vehicle. So that's not putting it in the trailer. The trailer is already at the maximum 3.5 tons to put in the vehicle. While in the Toyota HiLux, you've only got 430 kilograms to put in the vehicle. So that's, you know, 4 passengers, and that's kind of it, depending on, you know, how old they are or whatever. So if you are looking to do some towing, big heavy towing, then the Tasman is the pick. But the HiLux does have more torque, so I think it's going to be changing gears less, which could be less pressure on the gearbox, less prone to overheating, perhaps. I haven't tested either of them, so I don't. This is just a sort of assumption, but I'm going to guess the 8-speed auto is going to be working a bit harder to find the right torque level, considering it's got about 110 Newton meters less than the HiLux. So yeah, if you're doing lots of towing with about 2,000 kilogram trailer, then I would probably take the HiLux because you've got that more torque and the more basic transmission. But for everything else, driving around the town and certainly in terms of performance, the Tasman wins. Also, where the Tasman wins is the interior. Like, this is proper spectacular for this class. Good spread of quality materials all around the place, hardly any scratchy plastics. Even where it is plastic, it's kind of got this unique texture to it, so it doesn't look cheap. And you've got excellent practicality. I love these big metal door handles as well. You've got twin wireless phone chargers, cup holders, lots of different drive modes to play around with. And in the back, I mean, it does have these heavy door handles. You can pinch your finger in there pretty easily. There's a lot of pressure there. And they're quite heavy, the doors too. I do like the sort of sturdiness of it all though. You've got excellent practicality here as well. You've even got little pockets in the backs of the seats, USB-C ports, climate vents, and a Australian outlet plug down there. Nice comfortable seats as well. They've got the same textured pattern, stitch pattern as the front. And then nice big bottle holders in the doors with some sort of leatherette style trim, just to help divide it up and provide a quality feel. So the last question to answer, what do I think is best? Well, the Kia does offer better performance, definitely a better interior, and I think off-road performance is very close, if not slightly towards the Kia actually, just because it's got good clearances, like the front bar and the rear bar are really high mounted, and it's plastic anyway, so even if you do scuff that like someone already has, it's probably not going to matter so much. You don't have to worry about damaging, scratching paintwork. And then in terms of towing, I think the Kia does come up better, at least on paper. We'd have to take a nice long test drive, go up some big steep hills with sort of max rated towing, max rated trailer to see how this gearbox would shape up. But yeah, on paper at least the Kia does win because it's got more leftover GVM. On-road dynamics, I think the GR Sport does handle a little bit better. Actually, this is a bad way to put it, but I don't like the way that this is a little bit soft in my opinion. Like, there's a bit of body roll happening. And I know that body roll is, you don't want none of it, because when you come into a corner, it's just going to snap understeer. But I feel like that's a scenario that's, very, very rare. And in most of the time, the way I drive anyway, down mountain roads and so on, I'd rather have the better body stability, better bracing. And this is just a little bit too sloppy for my liking, and compared with the GR Sport HiLux. GR Sport HiLux handles really well for a ute, although I don't think it handles as good as a Ranger. I know I've said that probably 1,000 times before, but it really does handle quite good for a ute. But yeah, on the road, I think the HiLux does handle a little bit better. I think the suspension is also better in the HiLux in terms of smashing over stuff. So if you're on country road, dirt roads with corrugations and so on, I think it's going to shape up a bit better. It's a bit more heavy duty, the suspension package in the GR Sport. As I said, it's a bit more of a specialist machine. But yeah, other than that, if it wasn't for the design of the Tasman, it would definitely be a much harder decision. But for me, I'm going to go with the HiLux, because mainly better resale value, better on-road dynamics, although yeah, nowhere near as good as interior, and some of the capability is better and performance is better in the Kia. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.